Hi guys, and welcome back to another video here on the channel. So I asked in the last video, do you guys want a video on the right to roam? And this is that video, so let's get into it. So guys, first we'll talk about how the right to roam came to be here in Scotland. So basically about 95% of Scotland's land is owned by less than 5% of the population. So it meant a lot of Scottish people couldn't access their own countryside and land. And that's basically where the right to roam was born from. It gave the Scottish people the right to go out and roam on their land in their country. Come on, Snow. Cool. So where do you have the right to roam? So most land, quite honestly, you do have the right to roam on. There are some exceptions and most of them are common sense. So railway lines, airports, military installations, basic things like that, things that are for your safety. So you can't walk on a railway line, you can actually be done with trespassing for going on these places. And then the other one, a lot of people ask this, so can somebody just walk right through your backyard? And the answer is no. So anything which is classed as a private residence, you do not have the right to roam in. So we'll have to cut back home to better explain this part. Guys, to explain this bit, what I want you to imagine, or we're going to pretend, is I either rent or own this house, and also this field comes with it. So everything inside this fence line, which goes all the way around and round the front, everything within there is within your private residence. But as I say, if I was renting or owning this field as a part of this property, people would be within the right to walk on the other side of this fence if they wanted. And then you would also have commercial areas like building sites for say, which will be fenced off and will say no entry. And it's the same with private yards. And when I mean yard, I mean like the likes of a scrap yard or some sort of building works yard. If it is fenced off, you cannot walk through it. But most fields, farmland or wildland, forestry is all perfectly fine for you to roam. Go on in. Go on in. Don't eat that loot. Here. Come on, that loot. Good girl. So that was a very general sense of where you can and can't roam. Of course, if you're planning on roaming and you're not sure about where you're going, whether it's allowed or not, always look that up. But like I say, 99% of the countryside you can walk in. Brings us on to the rules that you should follow. And there's a nice simple saying that there should be no trace left behind. And that's basically the rules. From that you can figure out what it is. Basically, when you come onto a piece of land, it should be the exact same way when you leave. So things like here, you see this gate's tied open. I tied this gate open actually, but if this gate was closed, when you go through it, you should expect to leave it closed. And if it's left open like this, you leave it open. So you never change gates. If you want to walk through a gate, yes, you can open it to walk through and then make sure you close it behind you. A lot of people don't realise how annoying this can be to farmers and how much trouble this can cause for us. Because if, say we had a bull in this field, this gate was shut, and then we had some young heifers that were too young for breeding up here, and somebody leaves this gate open, they're all in calf, and now we're going to have medical problems with all them. Or you end up leaving a gate open, don't realise it, but further down the sheep can get to the road or something like that. Next minute we have sheep on the road, we have a car accident. So it's super important that you always close gates behind yourself. My big pet peeves, which is if you bring it with you, you take it home. So if you come out with a picnic or whatever, you're sitting out here in your car with your cans of juice, take them home and put them in a bin. Don't just throw them out the window. If you're having a picnic, don't just leave all your wrappers and food packaging lying for a farmer to clean up. And I'll be honest, this is one that really gets me, because people come out here because they love the countryside, they love the beauty of it, and then you've probably come out here because you love the countryside and the beauty of it, but then you just go and totally disrespect it, which to me is just crazy. Why you'd come out for these lovely views and these lovely green hills and think, you know what, I'll just leave all my rubbish behind. Storm, lie down, lie down, lie down. On to destruction of property. So you should not break or vandalize anything. You should not touch any of the farmers' equipment. If you're climbing a fence or something like that, fair enough, sometimes you may have to climb a fence, but try not to damage the fence while you're doing it. And then the really big one is crops. Some people just think it is appropriate for them or their dog to walk straight over a field of crops. It is absolutely not. It is destruction of property. You can absolutely be charged for walking over crops. Crops that are in the ground are that farmer's property at that point, and you cannot walk over new crops. I say new crops, if the field has been cut and it is stubble, you're probably fine to walk across it, but if it is new growth or grown crops, do not walk over it. And rule number 4 is do not disturb livestock in any way, and that goes for you or any dog that you might have with you. So you have no right to interfere or disturb livestock, and that can be as simple as you yourself shouldn't be chasing sheep around a field, even if it's to get a photo. Basically, if you encounter livestock, walk past calmly and quietly if they're in your way. And obviously this also brings up the safety aspect. If you were to cross a field of livestock and you were to get hurt by, say, a bull or some cattle, who would be at fault? And the answer is, while you're using your right to roam, you basically take responsibility for yourself. So if you knowingly enter a field of livestock and get hurt, then common sense would have said you should have known that was a possibility when you entered. So the farmer really holds no responsibility over you while you're using your right to roam. You should know what's a dangerous situation and what isn't, and you should adjust your walk accordingly. And then number 5, you must have control of your dog at all times, and I did a detailed video about this, so if you want to check out the detailed video, go back and watch that. But for a quick summary, basically you have to be able to stop your dog from approaching livestock, other people or wildlife, and you have to be able to recall your dog. You have to be able to have your dog walk at heel or have your dog on a lead, which is what I recommend for most people. Realistically, you need to have 100% certainty that your dog isn't going to worry or disturb livestock, and the best way to do that is just by keeping your dog on a lead. Even I'll carry a lead sometimes, because you never know when you're going to run into somebody else with a dog, and I will always put my dog on a lead when we're passing other dogs. It's essential to keep your dog safe, and it's essential to keep other people, livestock and wildlife safe. So the best advice I could give for taking the dog is keep it on a lead, especially when you're on farmland. Natalie, come on, good girl. I know, go on, good girl. Come on back. What are you hiding around there for? So guys, what I've tried to do here is not make it too boring and make it about the specifics or get too much into it, but give you an idea of what it's about, because the most of using your right to roam correctly is just common sense and common decency and courtesy. When when it comes to respecting other people. And something that I think a lot of people have to understand is your right to roam is not your right to do whatever you want. It is your right to use the land appropriately, but you still have to be respectful to that land and respectful to the people who maintain it. Just found a badger. Run. In fact, I'll just take this and show you. You might find that interesting. So, what Storm is sniffing at here is this. You can't see it because I'm in the light, that hole. So, that's a badger run. So that's where badgers go in and out. But that's a bit of a tangent, so there we go. What's all over you? What's that? Go on then. It's fox poo. I can smell it. I knew she was rolling around something. Oh well. So that's basically it, guys. That's basically a rundown. So you can kind of imagine what the right to roam is from that. And personally, I think the right of roam is a good thing on paper. But if people continue not respecting it, it's going to be a thing that's not going to be around anymore, because farmers are getting more and more aggrieved, I guess. People just don't respect the land, and when that happens, farmers don't want to let people on the land and things like that. Another thing I'm going to talk about quickly is right-of-ways, because there is a lot of myths about that, but I'll go into them quickly. One, farmers maintaining right-of-ways. I understand that when a right-of-way is on a farmer's land, they do have a duty to maintain it to some level, but at the end of the day, farmers are some of the most overworked people in the country, and expecting them to go out and maintain things for other people to use when they're already busy enough, I think is a bit much of an expectation from some people. And then there's a big rumour that bulls should not be on a public footpath. This is untrue. It's partly true, but untrue. There is a list of about 8 breeds, I think, 8 certain breeds which are not allowed to be on a footpath, and these are breeds which tend to be more aggressive. So, and most of them are dairy breeds, so like I believe Holsteins and Frisian bulls are 2 that are on that list. But most beef bulls are not on that list, and they are absolutely within their rights for the farmers to put bulls in those fields if they feel that's how to use it. At the end of the day, it's the farmer's land. It's up to him how he uses it. And then going back to what I said about farmers not really having responsibility for what happens to you when you're out. You have responsibility for yourself when you're on these footpaths, and if you come to a field and it has cattle in it and you're unsure, then that choice is up to you whether you continue or not. And if you don't feel comfortable, I would generally advise people to find another route. If you know the cattle and you're comfortable going in with them, but like it is a dangerous situation, and if you do want to go in, just go in and move through quietly. You may become more of a target if you have a dog, and again, this is all up to you. The farmer has no responsibility for looking after your safety when you're using your right to roam or using a public footpath, unless it was done maliciously. So bit of a crazy example here, but say a farmer laid a bear trap in the middle of a public footpath to hurt somebody on that public footpath, yes, they would absolutely be liable. Or if a farmer knowingly did something that was going to cause harm to somebody on that public footpath, or put poison on it for someone's dog, that would absolutely be against the law, and the farmer would absolutely be liable. But except for cases like that, you are pretty much liable for yourself, especially when you're using the right to roam. It's the way the law works in Scotland, maybe slightly different to other parts of the world. So a good example of this, in America, a lot of laws are very specific to certain things, where the law in Scotland tends to be a lot broader and open to interpretation in some form. So our laws are quite broad, they compass a lot of things and they intermingle with a lot of other laws. So you may be within your right to roam, but you may have used that incorrectly and broke other laws in the process. So it's always worth researching what you are and aren't allowed to do, and just basically have good etiquette when you're out in the countryside anyway. Because if people can do that and show that they can be responsible and respectful, then I don't think as many farmers would have as much problems, and as a result of that, a problem with the right to roam. So there you go, guys, and I'll just let you watch the rest of Storm's walk back. We just went out a little walk, the two of us, just to spend a bit of time, just the two of us together. So we'll just see what happens. And anyway, guys, that'll do. I'll see you in the next one. Yeah. Start. That'll do.